Good morning. So hope you had a good weekend. So yesterday was Mother's Day in UK. I know in the US and Canada it's not until May, but yesterday was a really, really special day. I had a really beautiful day with my daughter, my husband, and lots of lovely messages. And we had a really relaxed time actually. We started off at Worcester Cathedral and I lit a candle for family, but also for all the mothers around the world who are having a really rough time now with all the conflict going on. And then we had a lovely spa, lovely lunch, and a family meal in the evening. So it was lovely. But what I want to talk about today is I just realised how much I learned from my mother of leadership. I think I spend a lot of time with clients unpicking some of their stories from childhood, those stories that we make up that we see as children as fact, but actually can really railroad us later on in life. And it made me think about my mother, and she died 25 years ago now, but I think I learned so much about leadership from my mother. And I think it's an important point for us all to think about, of those that we see as children give us the blueprint of what should and shouldn't happen. Sometimes it's the negative stuff that we want to do the opposite to. Sometimes it's some really positive stuff that subliminally kind of we absorb. So for my story is my mother. We lived in a village outside Salisbury, which I loved. It was great. My father and my mother were very much part of the village. So my father was church warden. He was parish council chairman, lots of stuff within the village. And my mother, who was a nurse by background as well, so she was an army nurse too, met my father in the army and so forth. And so she became called the village nurse. She wasn't officially a title, but she would provide support to anyone who would actually have a crisis. They'd bring my mother up and she'd deal with it. Also, though, she was amazing at creating communities. And so at the time, the village church needed some kneelers for the church, and they didn't have any. So she created this community group of ladies, because this was in the 70s, very different world to where we are now. And she created this group to do embroidery for the kneelers, which are still in the church today. And then once she got that done, they wanted to carry on. So she created a handicrafts group where they were making things. And every Monday night, I remember going as a child, age sort of 7 or 8. I loved it. And I just sat there sewing and I sat there doing my stuff. And I think that's what was really interesting. And then she was president of the WI in those days. The WI was a big thing, the Women's Institute. And she was creating community. She was creating support. And where she saw a gap, she filled it. And I think that was a really great lesson for leadership for me. Also, there are times when it was tough and she just plowed on. And I think I learned so much about resilience from my mother that I never even realized that I had learned. She did have issues with mental health, but she kept going. She until she overcome it and so forth. So I think my lesson for you today, or my thought for the day, is, have a think about your background in your childhood, because there were lessons for leadership that you will have learned how not to do it and how to do it. I saw some other individuals within the village that did not behave well. And I think I subliminally thought, I will never be like that. So I think we don't realize how much those stories in childhood impact our whole being later on in life. So have a think about those people in your life. Now, all of us, well, I do, and I'm sure you do too, we have the best teacher that we'll always remember as our favorite teacher. Mine was Mrs. French, and she was amazing. I'd been to a different school because of the army. We'd arrived when I was like 6 into another school. I had changed schools quite a lot. And that, as a result of changing schools, I was quite behind in my, reading and writing and all that kind of stuff. And she took me under her wing. And within a term, I got back up to scratch with the rest of my peers. So I will always remember her for being a wonderful teacher. I always had a few that weren't quite so wonderful. And I think but actually look back on it, they were all examples of good leadership and not good leadership. So that's my message to you for today. And if you want to unpick a bit more, then please, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'll put my link to have a conversation in the chat below. And if you want to know how resilient you are as well, then I've got a 2-minute quiz that you could do as well. So have a good day and happy Monday, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.